out to death on the corners. They take the taser for his side, I'm just a coroner. To the yellow journalist that want awards for writing facts. For worldwide web press stories, always calling them black. Civil rights violated, here from C1-7. And CIA and FBI agents, brethren, fellas with what regard no one's heard. Put pause on nerds and study more than if I'm on the road, nobody's curved. Professor bullshit, I'm fighting for survival. Making wars, models won't happen, calling us captain rival. Inquisition is governors and secretaries of state. Got stateless on their tables like ribeye steak. With no care, blood dripping. They eat blacks rare. Foreigners willing to take one badges, pretending their ears. To the vastness of tables of evil actor. Stateless blood from back on horses, raw, I swear it's agua. Demons, thirst, sweat, stealing pioneers and organs. Psychiatry, death industry. The stars selling black orphans. And half post coffins. Cause legs are missing, killing stateless people. Cancer won't even see remission. More lives matter. Like black lives don't matter. 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 System, what system? Not gonna make myself no victim. Run down and kick them up and kick myself and flip them. All of these titles of nationality strips them. Must use reality in order to really grip them in this third dimensional illusion. Organized chaos confusion. Stealing your attention. Mental inclusion. Universal law. Declaration of the ancient. I self-law and master. From the rooftop to the basement. Roof deep to the patient. Ever since all creation. Celestial foundation. Ocean floor to the ranges. To the mountain dip. To the cosmic infinite. Basically we are way above the shit. In other words, get in tune with spirit. Take a breath and accept. Mental polarity, gender, rhythm, correspondence, vibration, cause and effect. More lives matter. Like black lives don't matter. More lives matter. Like black lives don't matter. More lives matter. Like black lives don't matter. More lives matter. Like black lives don't matter.
More lives don't matter because I think it all sound up. If it's protected, we're protected from your nasty off. If my perspective was direct you to reflect on the news that I reflect, so they want to cancel. On to the next one. No, but them are putting down. Use them a cash fraud. Can't believe a copy that. Can't believe a car. Trayvon, Michael Brown, Africa, bang. The afterlife, visited the class brawl. Who they really want to see with the crown on high and the guards on free? I am free and you nothing but your land or your country to seek your inalienable rights. The insatiable delight of knowing thyself and bringing all injustice to light. With the fight is your claim, make your sight for the bright. I'm the light in the night. More time for you to realize that.
More lives matter. Like black lives don't matter. More lives matter. Like black lives don't matter. More lives matter. Like black lives don't matter. More lives matter. Like black lives don't matter.
Northgate, go. H2O flow, Chic, Canaanland, Moorish, Beneath Fall, Shalon David, hello. Check it. They say they want to learn, they only debate. Representing the truth, trust me, they only thought it great. Any nationality before you question my estate. I'm not a minority, why you so late? Majority rules, trip up the set back. That's my hand in the form of a V on the chest. That's a move that is flat like a moon and a crest. Major forever, infinite mindset. Major for birth, that's a seed in process. I'm a more that is easy to digest. Compensate, never terroridian. That is my lab, never fake it. Secret traditions, petitions for what you're not Jamaican. No Westmoreland, support for. Everybody needs more. It's real need for. Following the process we should be for. I see the unseen for. We more. Back. Standing that.
energy too strong. Get it from the wrong source, now they way off course. Think they must be Muslim and give up on all sorts. Should give up the red meat, must give up on all pork. Won't be yelling out when the bottles are uncorked. Eating with the spoon, you fork the tuning. Eating humble pie, no ego ballooning. Samson two caterpillars, got a cocooning as the full moon hung spiral energy moving. Up through the crown chakra, energy shooting. I told me upload classes before live YouTubing. 16,000 subscribers, 20% consuming, 8% troll pretending to be tuned in. Comment on every video, pushing the thumbs down. We'll push the link when we live, just like a clown. Foreign and the incompetence always debating. Different Drew Ali, but won't give the location. His image on the black banner, that's vacation. Just get him out of here, use the girls in frustration. We know they're playing games, we're not berating. Calling 911, shit, the thoughts penetrated. In defense of prophets and mothers abused. And newly awakened more, amused and confused.
Islam, peace and love, Moorish. Thank you all for tuning in. I am Mizraim. I left L. You are tuned into MHHS Eyes Wide Open Blog Talk Radio for the 28th day of October 2021. But I am in fact and indeed with my brethren, the noble Cujo Agbo L. Peace, more.
Peace and love, more Islam.
Peace and love, more. How's self?
Everything is peaceful. You already know. Another Thursday.
Indeed. So we here again. I thank everybody for tuning in. I'm thankful to be here with you, brethren. And I know we usually do the third Thursday, but we postponed to this week because, last week was my mother's born day. We was going into that. And, we're going to do a little bit more celebrating going into, the days to come. But I just felt in my spirit like, you know what? We just need to postpone, and we came to this day, and I still feel like, the sons of Allah is in divine timing, bro, because usually we do the third Thursdays, and there is always something significant. But again, we here on, the 28th day of so-called October, and on the cusp, or right here at the door of so-called Halloween. You know what I mean? Trick-or-treaty, Moors, or treaty. Which one? You know what I'm talking about? Trick-or-treaty, And I feel like it's a divine timing, and I just thank you all, my mom, Anna Eve, for providing this platform, making sure we was able to reschedule with no hindrances or anything. Like we on, But so all Hallows Eve, all Halloween. I know this is a divine and national movement. We talked earlier briefly, and we were speaking about going in on identity, because there's a lot of misconceptions about what it is and what it's not. But again, in acknowledgement to the times that we're on right now, I know that we, correspond, are in harmony with a divine and a national movement. Speaking about so-called Halloween or All Hallows Eve. And, a lot of people, they look at my mother's works, or those who don't know, and they think it's just national, when there's been divine gems being dropped the whole time, and people are picking out what they want to politically dispute with about, certain principles on identity, and, and I just want to say, because we're going to go in, I feel in my heart and soul
we're gonna really go in on both tonight, divine and national. But you have people who feel like on a national level, or I guess I don't even want to give them credit for being on a national level, but they feel like having a allodial identification is somehow not real identification or whatever. And it's funny because if you know anybody who has gotten an ID or anything of that nature from the state within the past year or so, they're issuing IDs and driver's license, and all of this stuff is saying on it that it is not real ID, quote unquote, or for real ID purposes. Whether that you receive that or perceive that to be on a statutory level or on an actual factual, metaphysical, divine and national level, that it never was ID, because I feel like there's a lot of people get Moorish perspective about, quote, licenses. They take it the wrong way in the sense of the issue about the license on the note of identity, right? The issue about the so-called license is the fact that a license was never identification. Mm-hmm. That is a lot of people, Moors, some Moors, I can't speak for all Moors because there's such a great division in these days and times, but the actual factual perspective about, you know, what people are saying, oh, Moors don't believe in license and all of this, is the fact that the issue is that a license has never been an identification, right? And that goes for all licenses. Meaning, like I said, bro, like if I have a gun license, quote unquote, or a license to carry, that is not my identification. If I have a restaurant and I own a restaurant and have a bar and have a liquor license for that bar, that liquor license is not my identification. If I have a driver's license, that driver's license is not my identification. The issue is license has never been identification in any class you want to take it to, whether it be driver's, gun license, liquor license, whatever license, it has never been your actual identification. That's the issue. So we know in these present days and times that these so-called states perceive through their color of law that a license is a privilege. And that may very well be the case. But one thing that is not a privilege is your identification. Your identity is not a privilege. It is, in fact, a birthright, period. Okay, so you have to learn to separate your identification from being a privilege, like a so-called license. A license is a privilege, quote unquote. Your identification is not. Your right to travel is not a privilege. But a so-called license is. And there's a difference between them all. So when we're talking about rights, liberties, identity, people are talking about it as if some people who are misinformed are talking about it as if an identification is some sort of privilege on an equal footing of a license. It is not. Never has been, you know. So I think once we are able to separate these concepts of what a license is and what it is not, and what identification is and what it is not, right? Because, you know, again, Right to travel is a right. A license is a privilege. For me to own a restaurant and have a liquor license, quote unquote, they would call that a privilege. A gun license, quote unquote, they would call that a privilege. A driver's license, quote unquote, they would call that a privilege, but none of them are identity. So just off the rip, I just want to make that very clear because, you know, people are saying things and being completely misinformed based off of the fact that they don't understand allodial, true and divine Moors, you know what I mean? De jure Moors' perspective on this license topic, on this identity topic. If you know anybody that goes to the DMV, like I said, from 2021, let's say to 2020, in some so-called states even before then, the states are issuing identifications that tell you they are not real ID. And again, you can take that how you want. You know, some people are saying nationality is a social issue, and it's not a legal or lawful issue, and all of this craziness here. And all I'm saying is, you know, we already seen what happened with Dred Scott, right? So we know for a fact nationality, identity is a legal issue. And on the note, right, because I know there's a right to travel by any mode of conveyance. It's called, if you look at freedom and liberty, your right to travel is within that. So when I hear Moors talking about, oh, those are some renegade sovereign citizen Moors because they believe in the right to travel and all of that. And I'm looking at these fools like, excuse me, if Noble Drew Ali did not say it was 5 principles that we're supposed to be in harmony with, which is love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. If I don't understand freedom, you let me know, right? Because I've looked up the lawful legal definition of freedom, right? And I understand this because they're saying, oh, well, certain Moors are getting locked up and arrested for having, yes, shout out to Siraj Moel. We about to get into that. 18 USC. You know what I mean? We're going to get into that in a minute. But the universal energy is real. You know what I mean? But they're alleging Moors have fake IDs because they're being arrested for having it. And I'm like, well, since you so-called Negroes is trying to come with all of this lawful legal talk, everybody know the basic fundamentals of the so-called legal system is that an arrest does not mean a guilty verdict. Show me a Moor, not a Moor that has been arrested, but show me one Moor that has been duly convicted of a crime for solely carrying a allodial identification or a nationality card from any Moorish organization or any of that. Show me one Moor that has been duly convicted of a crime for having allodial identification. Because an arrest is not a proving of guilt. Like, that's basic law, right? They say guilty until proven innocent. That's the maximum of law for American law anyway. But, you know, so what I'm saying is this, right? Freedom. There's aspects and levels to it. Some people take it different ways. I can't speak for everybody, but I do know that in these days and times, whether it's a right or a privilege, both are protected in law, right? Like Siraj Moore-El said, you know, Title 18 USC, because you hear a lot of so-called Negroes complaining about so-called white privilege, right? And you say, okay, well, you're mad at their privileges and all of this, but you have rights and privileges that are protected by law in the Constitution via Title 18 that you won't enforce. So I don't want to hear you crying about so-called white privilege when you don't even want your rights or your privileges. You won't enforce them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So for me personally, it's just like all of these concepts about, you know, Moors not having quote unquote real identity in the states do, but you go to the state and they're giving you identification that's telling you it's not real ID and all of that. Like, I don't even want to me at this point in time, there's nothing to prove on that matter. You know what I'm saying? There is nothing to prove. Like, the states are telling you they don't have real identification, and y'all are debating more about whether our identity is real or not. Some of y'all just don't have no respect for it, but I definitely want to get into this divine side too. I don't want to hog the floor, but I just want to give acknowledgement to my, you know, mother and her born day and my birthrights, and, you know, because a lot of people is trying to tarnish the essence of what it was about. So being as though, like I said, we're here on the cusp of so-called Halloween, which we know is an ancient Moorish tradition in Europe, though, right? We know we got history books from 1909 that deal with the ancient times of the Moorish Empire in Europe, right? By S.P. Scott, you know what I mean? So a lot of these so-called modern day European traditions and holidays, holy days, whatever, they come from our ancient customs and culture. We've dealt with this before, so trick-or-treating, boys, you know what I mean, on this All Hallows Eve timing. So I just want to say this is from RVBayPublications.com. This is the All Hallows Eve article, wherein it says this is for educational purposes. You could Google it right online, RV Bay Halloween article. Okay, this is for educational purposes. Halloween is All Hallows Eve, the eve of All Saints Day. All Saints Day is November 1st, as marked on most calendars. This is the day when the alignment of the earth plane and other astral bodies make it easier to be in tune with the ancestral spirits. Again, correlating to identity, right? That's my interjection. But to continue, it says, this happens every year. It is a celestial vibration or celebration. This means you can be in tune with the ancestors with greater ease and they to you. Thus, this has always been a quote-unquote holy day, speaking about quote-unquote Halloween, for ancestral acknowledgement and honor of all saints. Now, before I continue and go on, we can break this all down, but I know I've been going in for a little bit. I just want to yield the floor. If there's anything you want to add on to the points that I just made before we continue, bro, I'm going to yield the floor over.
Peace, Morris Lob. One of the things you brought up was the freedom definition. So I just want to put that out, because I think a lot of as usual, most of the people who have some type of debate or discrepancy with what Moors are presenting are individuals who have taken the side of the foreigner. They don't have their own mind, they don't have their own ID, they don't have their own holy book, they don't have their own anything, but they're challenging ones who do have their own, which is absolutely counterproductive for them. Because again, we're gonna, like you said, find me one more that whatever. Well, find me one Negro that got off of something. Find me one so-called black who stood up for whatever right they claimed they got and didn't get their ass beat or didn't get murdered in the street or didn't get run over by some people because they wanted to play, speed bump and think that they could just lay there and nothing happened to them, right? So when we express things that Noble Drew Ali presented to us, we were talking about it the other day with the 5 principles, and anywhere you see the 5 principles, know that that's Drew Ali talking to you. Any one of the 5 principles, if that's standing out boldly in somebody's presentation and they mention any of the 5 principles, know with your Moorish mind that you're being given, acknowledgement from them, even though they don't know what they're talking about. They're giving acknowledgement to the Prophet and recognizing that Noble Drew Ali really is the man by giving us these 5 principles that nowhere are they refuted. Nowhere are you going to go, whether they're conscious, unconscious, whether they're disabled, retarded, whatever. You bring up any one of those principles, you're not going to have anybody telling you they don't want it or get those principles out of here. Those are sovereign citizen principles or whatever. So when we go to freedom, it talks about the state of being free, liberty, as mentioned earlier, self-determination, absence of restraint, the opposite of slavery. So how much of the man is Drew Ali if he told us that he came to get us out of slavery that we have now? And in the definition of one of the principles, it's actually the opposite of slavery. The power of acting in the character of a moral personality, according to the dictates of the will, going back to the divine again, without other check, hindrance, or prohibition than such as may be imposed by just and necessary laws, and the duties of social life. And then we go back to Noble Drew Ali again with the social duties and what every Moor's obligations are with regard to society and in this life. The prevalence in government and constitution of a country of such a system of laws and institutions as secure civil liberty to the individual citizen. So like they say, freedom is everybody's job. And if you're not for freedom, then you're for slavery. You're for mental enslavement, spiritual enslavement, economic enslavement, and any other enslavement that applies. Because according to the dictates of the will, every individual should want liberty. Every individual should want the state of being free. Every individual should want self-determination. Every individual should want to not be restrained. When the people are willingly wanting to be restrained, willingly putting themselves in slavery, willingly denying themselves self-determination, willingly wanting to be in a state that is bondage, you have to start looking at their psychology and their mentality. And I would, strongly suggest that you stay away from these people, because the people who don't want rights are going to assist in getting yours taken away. The people who are against rights, the people who are against nationality card and they're trying to convince you license is where it's at. They're setting you up to be a serf. They're setting you up to be somebody's ward. And once you're set up and you fall for the setup and you become a ward, don't come crying to Moors, because we've been told you that you can't go there. You don't have anything there. When the Moors had I remember when Taj and Nature had put out the video about getting a license, and then Moors lost their mind because they didn't get the context that was being presented. Because you can't do things without knowledge. As soon as you're trying to do things without knowledge, you're about to get injured. So to save you from injury and to give you time, because you're not just gonna find out about Moorish nationality and then you're just gonna get rid of the license because you feel like it. You are going to put some time into research, put some time into studying, put some time into knowing what it is that Moors are presenting, especially when it comes to, right to identify, but you're taking the position of having a foreigner identify you for you when you should be identifying yourself for you. You're not supposed to be going with somebody else's perspective. But again, without knowledge, of course you will. Of course that is what's happening. And there's too much information out there on the right to identify, especially with regard to international law. Conventions on rights of a child, that the recognition of the right to identity, right? It's not something that's being created. It's something that is pre-existing. And, again, once the will is dictated, you start invoking, you start applying things, and applying things with repetition is going to get you further. But applying things in repetition without complete definition is going to have you lacking a clear perspective of what it is that this is about, what it is that card that you have called nationality card is about, what it is nationality is about. Noble Drew Ali telling us Moorish American, Noble Drew Ali making reference to us as being a nation, which is identifying you as a whole. The idea of being a nation is identity. The idea of having turban or fez, that's identity, not just the card only. The dress code is identity. How you look, how people perceive you is identity, not just these instruments that we have and say, show this, that means I am who I am. There's ample amounts of Moors who took identity from the perspective of this is the card, and they didn't get anywhere. And then they're mad that it didn't go how it was supposed to go because they showed their card and they're supposed to get, because the card, when identity starts within, our identity starts with, do you have knowledge of what your identity is and what it's supposed to be? Do you have a direct connection to that identity, especially if we're talking about it being a right? Especially when we're talking about it being a right. So when you have individuals speaking rash against our identity, speaking messed up about our identity, You know, it's like when we say, as soon as they present some BS to you, you ask them what their nationality is. As soon as they start talking crazy about their nationality is whatever they're saying that it is, immediately that's supposed to let you know where they're at and how you should be dealing with them. Because you can't you can't impart knowledge to a stone. Stones are for slingshots and stuff like that. You're not going to sit there having a conversation with a rock. It's not going to go anywhere for you. And majority of the individuals, they take the mindset that we don't know as Moors, we don't know what we're talking about, but they know what they're talking about. And when you challenge them on certain things, what's your nationality? They're telling you all types of stuff that has nothing to do with nations. All these things are supposed to be signals to you. You start going to these tribunals and you're putting your nationality on the record and they don't want to accept it and all that. It has nothing to do with you're wrong. It has to do with who are these people? Did you question them on their identity that they're claiming you don't have? And again, when you look at it from an international law perspective, it gives you a broader way to look at it. UN Human Rights Committee, Inter-American Committee of Jurists. When they start International Court of Justice, when they start talking a certain way with regard to identity, and these are the international people talking like this, that's supposed to let you know the importance of it. And again, brings Noble Drew Ali again to the forefront, and you slapping your forehead realizing that's why he did certain things. That's why he said certain things. That's why certain things were presented in the way that it was presented. And if we could get it right now, and it makes sense, because, we can just punch the stuff in some type of search engine and get all the answers, right? The people who were back then who didn't have that, and that were standing on this, like when we look at the convention picture and we see all these Moors in them, whether they're dirty or whatever the case is, they didn't have the access that we had. And look how they were on it as far as their identity. That they know conventions coming up. They're traveling across the country to be where their identity's at. They're getting charters to establish this identity wherever they're at, to make sure that others don't fall through the cracks with this guesstimate perspective of identity, not having full knowledge of what it is and how it applies to ourselves. And again, the international community doesn't speak from a negative position when identity comes up. They always have something in favor of identity, especially indigenous people having the right to identify themselves and not going with the assimilated identities that have been forced on the indigenous people. So we want to stress the point that rights, freedoms, liberties, all those things are relative to your identity. And if you don't know what your identity is, then don't talk about rights. Don't talk about freedom. Don't talk about, you're going to do something to the white man and all that stuff when you don't even know who you are. Much less you don't know who he is if you're calling him white men and devils and whatever else that they're going to call him. Clearly you don't know what's going on. And it's our duty, our social duty as Moors, to take this thing to the hedges, the highways, and wherever else that it could be taken, so that people can hear Moors speak and have a perspective that clears their concepts. Because without clear concepts, look at what's going on right now. With all these misconceptions that's been floating around that people say, oh, it doesn't matter and whatever like that. Now everybody's running to Moors to get exemptions because they don't want to get shots and all that stuff. Well, if you got no identity, them exemptions don't apply to you. I don't care how great they read and how amazing they sound. And it's real time that people are putting in these exemptions and then some of them aren't working. And it has nothing to do with them. It has to do with you. Because like they've been saying on the site for years, the boat has left the dock. And you should have been on this already. And don't think that we're holier than thou or whatever, because like we say, we're late. If we just got this in the year 2000, if we got this in 1990, whatever, if we got this in 1980, 1970, we're still late. The boat still left the dock and almost left us. So take what Moors are saying serious. If not, ain't no big deal, because Moors are going to be doing what they're going to do regardless. But take what Moors are talking about serious and make sure that you study this information, you learn, and you don't just go out there doing stuff because you heard something or somebody said something and it tingled you in your heart chakra or it tingled your pineal gland and you're thinking, oh wow, he said we can fly, jump off the balcony. You probably don't want to go there. Slow down, and probably take the stairs, take the elevator a few times before you just jump off the balcony trying to fly, because it's not going to work out too good for you. And then, you're not going to be able to blame Moors when you do dumb stuff. You're not going to be able to blame nationality when you do dumb stuff. You're not going to be able to blame the nation or blame the prophet or blame the Moor who told you that Moors could fly. You blame yourself for not taking into consideration what was said and going and studying it before you start applying stuff. And again, with the thing of the license and all that stuff, all those instruments that they claim is you because there's a name on it and whatever like that, all those things tell you somewhere on it that that's not yours, that's somebody else's stuff. So if the instrument is somebody else's, how are you thinking that the name on it is you? How you not thinking that's not somebody else's? And again, looking at it with the Moorish mind, looking at it with the Moorish eyes, you see more, pun intended. But I yield the floor. Islam.
Like you said, the boat has left the dock and Moors are mooring now, bro. And it's like, apologies to the people who did not get this and understand in whatever capacity and who are confused about, what Moorish information is about, going beyond not just Noble Dry but beyond that. But I digress. I wanted to finish reading this, right? Because we hear on this All Hallows Eve cusp and whatnot, and on a divine and national level. Again, my mother wrote this, and I just wanted to finish reading this to acknowledge the times, that we are in now. It says, in more modern days, again, this is the All Hallows Eve article, RVBaypublications.com, and it says, in more modern days, many who lack true knowledge have accepted others' adoption of this day into a negative day of ghosts and goblins. This has been taught to the masses as tradition, yet it is not a true tradition of the natural people. And I just want to pause right there real quick, because if it is a spiritual day and, you know, people believe in God and devil and angels and demons and all of that, and this day is really rooted in spirituality, but the crazy part is the spirituality that it was rooted in has nothing to do with, you know, necessarily make-believe images, but the spirituality was dealing with the elements. This is when there was fire festivals and bonfires and all of that being carried out. People was tapping in with the bonding of the elements. So the heat, because what they call Samhain really just means the end of summer, which is where all of this Halloween stuff comes in at. In the northern hemisphere, or the northern portion, or above the equator of the planet Earth in the north, whether that be North America, Europe, Asia, whatever, you know what I mean? This was the time where the sun was descending and going back into the southern atmosphere or hemisphere and whatnot. And, you know, it's basically like the astrological math is 45 days into any season, or 45 degrees into any season, right? You're pretty much in the crux and in the fixed part of that season. Like, there is, like, after 45 days, the inconsistency of the weather being hot, cold, warm, cold, or warm, cool, like, it starts to get consistent after 45, because we halfway through the season. You know what I mean? And we're about at that point now. So, you know, because the fall season started September 21st, here we are about 31, 45 almost days into the fall season. And this is where it's considered the end of summer as far as the origins of Halloween. But the origins was really always tapped into the element of fire, bro. So I say that to say that in correlation with what my mother was saying in this article about Halloween and All Hallows Eve, and it says, in more modern days, many who lack true knowledge have accepted others' adoption of this day into a negative day of ghosts and goblins. This has been taught to the masses as tradition, yet it is not a true tradition of the natural people. So ghosts and goblins, gods and angels, you know, angels and demons, like, it's always about an energy. It says, in addition, the opening in the cosmos is an opening for entering and exiting of spirits of cosmological inspiration and higher vibrations of the universal mind as it relates to you. The manifested ritual of opening your door is indicative of the opening of the cosmos. You can be in touch with ancestral spirits via routine rituals at any time. However, when you open without knowing, you don't know if you are going to be get or get the trick or the treat. You know, you don't know if you're going to get the trick or the treat. Trick or treating, Moorish. And that's not to encourage anybody to do a ritual, but, you know, a lot more is ritual than we think. It's not like you gotta light a candle and say, oh, let me do this ritual of opening the door. You know what I mean? This is just, you know, you being in tune. Okay, so it says, the point of the Eve is to acknowledge the existence of that which is unseen, hence many put on masks. Now, mind you, let me just stop right here real quick. This was published in 2013, just so we clear, right? This was the talk in 2013. It says the point of the Eve is is to acknowledge the existence of that which is unseen. Hence, many put on masks, so you don't know what is or who is really behind the mask or costume. And again, this is on RVBayPublications.com. This was posted in 2013. And that last part I just read correlates so much to today. I just look at it like, wow, man, like this is crazy, right? To acknowledge the existence of that which is unseen, hence many put on masks. And I just know now we're in the days of COVID, everybody got on masks, you know, damn near 365 to protect themselves from something that is unseen. And it's just like, is this all a ritual? Like, is all of this Halloween? You know what I mean? Like, if, I don't know, man. Like, this is crazy. But, yeah, Mercury retrograde was really, really deep, bro. So it says, so you don't know what is or who is really behind the mask or costume. It is a pawn involving yourself in rituals without knowledge that the worst of this cosmological or celestial vibration can be experienced. As you must be cognizant and you must know, so you do not suffer vulnerability from lack of knowledge. It is a trick to use children to assist in these rituals. Although it seems so innocent and every child usually likes candy. The point of the evening, All Hallows Eve, is to acknowledge the eve of All Saints Day, November 1st, and the unseen ancestral spirits that protect and guide you, or are you acknowledging the eve of the unknown and unfamiliar, trick or treat? Happy All Hallows Eve and All Saints Day. We hope you receive good energy from your ancestors. RVBayPublications.com. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure I read that on the strength of the times we in now, bro. And like what's been being said and how, you know, since March 13th, 2020, every day seemed like Halloween. People got on masks and had to wear masks and all of this here. You know what I mean? And it's just like, I don't know, man. It's just new days and times, and some of the lessons that we've known from back then are showing themselves to be some of our mental survival tools now, so that we don't get confused and lost, and we know what time it is, and you know our mentality is in alignment with what we know already to be true. So if it wasn't for this information, right, on a divine and national level, there would be some Moors that would have lost their mind because they didn't know, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm just saying that, you know, it's so many reasons that we're thankful for RVBayPublications.com. And it is not just solely about, you know, a nationality card or right to travel. It's so much that goes with that. Divine and national. You know, divine and national. And pardon me if y'all ever heard me say Moorish American movement, but I know, and I correct myself, this is a Moorish divine and national movement. Like, that's what Noble Ali said it was. I'm not saying it can't be a Moorish American movement. I'm just saying Noble Ali said this was a divine and national movement, not just Moorish American, politically speaking. You know, it was divine and national, right? So these things have to be understood for us to stand. You know what I mean? Like that has to be the case, bro. Like on so many different levels. But you know, again, treasures of Allah, and everybody gets his just portion, as it says in the Circle 7. So, I'm gonna leave that there for now, bro. But yeah, on that note though, is there anything you want to add on to that as far as the concept that was written about, the All Hallows Eve and Halloween in 2013, bro? Like, and seeing people today with these masks, I know they're dropping them in a lot of places. There's different perspectives on it, but what's your thoughts on that?
Well, we'll look at it from we'll look at it from this perspective right here. The Moors is a residential community conveniently located just minutes from the 826 I-75, I-95, and the Turnpike at 17321 Northwest 66th Court in Miami, with a wide variety of apartments, condominiums, townhouses, and single-family homes. The Moors has something for everyone. The Moors said the lost meaning of Halloween by Christian Hummel. The Moors, lost meaning of Halloween. Anyways, All Hallows Eve, Halloween, the Day of the Dead, Samhain, by whatever name it has been called, this special night preceded All Hallows Day, November 1st, has been considered for centuries as one of the most magical nights of the year, a night of power, when the veil that separates our world from the other world is at its thinnest. As ubiquitous as Halloween celebrations are throughout the world, few of us know that the true origin of Halloween is a ceremony of honoring our ancestors and the Day of the Dead, a time when the veils between the worlds were thinner and so many could see the other side of life, a time in the year when the spiritual and the material worlds touched for a moment and a greater potential exists for magical creation. In ancient times, this day was a special and honored day of the year. In the Celtic calendar, it was one of the most important days of the year, representing a midpoint in the year, Samhain, or summer's end, occurring opposite the great spring festival of May Day, or Beltane. This day represented the turning point of the year, the eve of the new year, which begins with the most onset of the dark phase of the year. And while celebrated by the Celts, the origin of this day has connections to other cultures as well, such as Egypt, and in Mexico as Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead. The Celts believed that the normal laws of space and time were held in abeyance during this time, allowing a special window where the spirit world could intermingle with the living. It was a night when the dead could cross the veils and return to the land of the living to celebrate with their family or clan. As such, the great burial mounds of Ireland were lit up with torches lining the walls, so the spirits of the dead can find their way. Out of this ancient tradition comes one of our most famous icons of the holiday, the jack-o'-lantern. Originating from Irish folklore, the jack-o'-lantern was used as a light for the lost souls of Jack, a notorious trickster stuck between worlds. Jack is said to have tricked the devil into a trunk of a tree, and by carving an image of a cross on the tree's trunk, he trapped the devil there. His pranks denied him access to heaven and even angered the devil also to hell. So Jack was a lost soul, trapped between worlds. As a consolation, the devil gave him a soul ember to light his way through the darkness between worlds. Originally held in Ireland, turnips were carved out and candles placed inside as lanterns lit to help guide Jack's lost spirit back home. Hence the term jack-o'-lantern. Later, when immigrants came to the New World, pumpkins were readily available, and so the carved pumpkins carrying a lit candle served the same function. And then we just have to ask ourselves with regard to, if you know what a turnip is, and you carving a turnip to put a candle in it, how big were these turnips in ancient times? And then Juali talking about grapes being 4 in a hand and all that. Festival for the dead. As the church began to take hold in Europe, the ancient pagan rituals were co-opted into festivals of the church. While the church could not support a general feast for all the dead, it created a festival for the blessed dead, all those hallowed. So All Hallows was transformed into All Saints and All Souls Day. Many cultures have ceremonies to honor their dead. In doing so, they complete a cycle of birth and death and keep in line with the harmony and order of the universe. As you light your candles this year, keep in mind the true potency of this time, one of the magical connections to the other side of life, and a time to remember those who have passed before us, a time to send our love and gratitude to them to light their way back home. So all the transitioned, whoever they are, all of them, whoever that they are, do something to honor them. Do something to acknowledge and appreciate them. Being that the veil is going to be thin, or so thin that they can receive the messages that you've been trying to give them for, the beginning part of the year, nothing worked or whatever. Maybe it's because you're not doing the stuff in accord with the universe. Maybe instead of wasting all that energy throughout the year talking to these lost souls or whatever, that you wait till this weekend or this time in the year to put all that ancestral power and all that stuff that you want to use into the universe at this time, so that you can get a response. And guarantee you're going to get a response, whether it's in the form of numerology, whether it's in the form of symbology, whether it's in the form of somebody you haven't heard from in however long and they, hit you up out the blue, whatever. There's going to be that proof that the veil has been lifted. Your ancestors are here with you, always here with you, and they ain't got nowhere else to go. They ain't got anything else to do. So, know that their duty being on the other side is to work in your favor. And of course, one of the most acknowledged transition masters, Noble Drew Ali, make sure you put a candle up or do something in honor of him, and have him jump into your life and give you some stuff that you thought you couldn't get because you're putting your energy to the wrong ancestors. Not everybody, it's like we say with elder, not everybody's elder. Some of these people are old people and they don't even need to be acknowledged as such. And then there's ones who don't get enough acknowledgement. So see this time as, turn over a new leaf, look at it differently, so we can get some energy in our favor. Islam, I yield.
Islam more. Hey, man, I just want to say, you was on point when you was talking about us trying to talk to the ancestors all year. I've had a humbling experience. When you said that, a question I just want to
something to consider, right? Like, some of our people are so, like, deep in trying to talk to the ancestors. And me personally, like, I could say it's a lot better when you humble yourself, sit down, and really listen to what they're trying to tell you, right? Like, because we so busy trying to tell them something, and what we trying to tell them, in a sense, they may already know. But I seriously believe it's not about what we're trying to tell the ancestors. It's about what they're trying to tell us, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I swear to God, I feel like word is bond. I feel like that. Like, because, you know what I mean? It's just too many examples. Like, you know, but personally, for me, like, it may work for some people. I think that the best conversations you can have is with that still small voice within. But if you could tap into that, you could tap into what your ancestors was trying to tell you, no doubt. Because, you know, Allah speaks in the heart, in that still small voice within, you know. And really, like, if you could tap into that, you could be still and listen to what your ancestors are trying to tell you. Because all is all is one, all is well, you know. But that's how I see it more. You think I'm tripping for seeing it like that? Like, maybe we should stop trying to tell them what they already know and start listening to what they're trying to show and tell us. Like, because it is different.
Yeah, right and exact. And again, you know, the whole point of connecting with the ancestors is for them to put you on. What are you telling them? You're still here. What are you telling them? What could you really present to them that they don't already know? You know what I mean? They've been there, done that. So what is it that this connection with the ancestors, you know what I mean? You know, other than, you know, you receiving the divine message from them, whoever the ancestors are that you're seeking counsel with, you know, it has to be acknowledged that when the ancestors show up, you shut the hell up. Just like Drew Ali said, you know, if you see me, don't say a word to me until I talk to you first. You know what I mean? You go into meditation, you see the prophet, you're running up and talking about how you beat the case and all this type of stuff. You think he didn't know that you beat the case? You think it wasn't him that made the judge just go with everything that you're saying? So yeah, right and exact. And then don't get discouraged when, you know, you're listening to the quiet voice and the quiet voice ain't telling you anything. You know, don't be discouraged. Maybe it's not time for you to hear what you're supposed to hear yet. Maybe it's not time yet for you to receive the message. You know, the message is going to be heard when you are prepared for the message. You know, you might get the message and go jump off something because you weren't ready. You might get the message and you know, do something crazy because you weren't ready. You thought that this is just some you know, light some candles and pour out some liquor and the ancestors are happy. It's way deeper than that. And the connection to them, the direct connection, that you have to them is why, or is how you're gonna get to wherever it is that you're going. Ancestors always play a part, but they only play a part if you listen to them. They don't play a part if you're trying to put them on game, because being that they're behind the veil and we're in front of the veil, they know more than you. So shut the hell up and take into consideration the messages that you're receiving. I yield.
Facts indeed. I think that's where it's at, man. Sometimes we gotta humble ourselves and we don't know it all, and there is energies working with us that do know more than we know. But hey, look, at the moment, almost 10:11. But I'm gonna we got one call. I want to open the line. I don't want to leave them hanging all night.
Islam,
I hope they still ready to come over.
Yeah.
Indeed, caller 808-269. Peace, man. You live on the air. You with this? Peace, caller 808.
Oh, Islam, Mark. I accidentally pressed the button, but since I'm on, I want to give thanks. And I'll just share my thought of tuning in. This is a Buzz calling in from Hawaii. I was just building with my brother. He subscribed to a different school of thought. He studies King James, etc. If you know what I mean. And so every time around the holiday season, he always brings these points, and he always asks me similar questions. Anyway, tonight's dialogue answered many of those questions that speaks directly to my dialogue with my brother over here. So I want to give thanks for addressing these topics, which we're going to use to build and continue to build understanding one another. Islam, more peace and love.
Islam, Uncle Buzz. Peace and love.
Nah, peace, but Uncle Buzz, that's a fact, man. Appreciate you tuning in on that. Word is fine. Indeed. Yeah, man. It's a thing, It's definitely something we gotta be in tune for, because I just think that's, it's important, man. Like, they be trying to talk to us and tell us stuff all the time, and if we don't understand, or we don't overstand or understand that they understand, and they're gonna show you, because if you're gonna call on the ancestors, I don't know what y'all, and it's not my business, but it could be for people, may want forgiveness with their past. Some people, a lot of people, say that they call on the ancestors for guidance, right? So if you call on them for guidance, you gotta pay attention to the signs that they're showing you.
Just straight.
They're not gonna come up. You know what I mean? Like, they're not gonna pop up to you as an apparition and lift you off your physical feet to take you to where you want to be. Like, no, they're gonna show you how to get there. But you gotta be paying attention to the guidance that you asked for. I just see it like that, bro. Like, if that's not the case, then, what are we really tapping into? That's where it's at. But yeah, more, I don't want to stretch it or anything.
Yeah.
But
what's your thoughts? What's your thoughts on this? What's your thoughts on this? You heard about Facebook changing up their stuff so that they can get prepared for virtual reality and all this?
Yeah, bro. Look, I'm telling you. Look, first off, this was all in the movie The Terminator, The Matrix. I just want to say we did start off this conversation talking about identity, and one of my favorite movies of all time is The Bourne Identity.
Yeah.
It's called The Bourne Identity, and Matt Damon.
Yeah.
Matt Damon plays Jason. And I know it was one that came out before that in the 80s. You understand? But it showed how this identity
is about to be kind of like intermixed into everything, bro. So metaphysics, you know,
Yeah.
and Facebook now changing their name to Meta to go more into a virtual reality, which they told you in Terminator that this will be the case in 2029. I'm personally not surprised. If Facebook is doing it, it's not too far behind that Instagram is going to do it, because as any Instagram user knows now, Instagram is definitely owned by Facebook. So it didn't start off like that, but that's the case now. So Instagram and Facebook are sisters or cousins or sister cousins, however you want to look at it. But so Facebook now about to change their name to Meta, right? And Meta is measurement, math, you know, all of these things. It's Meta, it's math, you know? And of course it has attribute, yeah, that's what it means, you know. Meta, all of that means, well, I know they spell it different, but Meta and Mother Nature is the same thing. It's mathematics, it's sacred geometry, you know. So for Facebook, they took y'all from literally physical aspects of your face in this digital book, now about to take y'all into the realm of metaphysics by changing their name from Facebook to metaphysics. To Meta. But they just missing the physics, but they still dealing with physics because they're telling you that's why. They want to go more into a virtual reality. So Facebook is a new thing. Instagram in short order will more than likely become a new thing too. And I can see it already. It's going to be subscription based. You're going to have to pay to have it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to be ninjas just on there for free talking all types of crazy shit and all of that. Like, it's going somewhere else now, right? The new segregation is going to be the digital divide. So everybody who had a voice for the past 10 years or felt like they had a voice for the past 10 years on Facebook could very well be in jeopardy of what they're doing digitally right now, right? To change the rhythm, algorithm, whatever rhythm you want to call it. They're trying to change it because they just took many industries from physical to metaphysical and or digital, right? So that's where it's going. That's what I see, you know, because I know, like Moors know, a name means something, right? A name definitely means something, or an appellation, or a brand, or attribute. It means something. Whatever anybody claims that they are, it means something to somebody. You know what I mean? So for them to go from Facebook to Meta, bro, you know, I'm going to bring out the box. You know what I mean? In New York City, they say they already out. Yeah. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's that time. It's that time. You know what I'm saying? So, you know what I mean? Like, and this is what I said when it hit. And once I got hit to what was happening, I'm like, all right, 6 months into the so-called pandemic, I'm like, understanding what was happening 7, 8, 9 months in, I'm like, oh, this is going to run the whole decade. They can try to do whatever they want. This COVID era and, you know, damn near everyday Halloween, this is going to be something that changes society. Society already changed, but it's going to be something that's relevant for at least the next 10 years. Word is bond. And I think at the end of this decade, the 2020s, there's going to be a lot of digital robots and all of that is actually the new, quote-unquote, normal that they was talking about the whole time.
Yeah.
Because that's what I remember them saying. This is the new normal, new normal, new normal. It's like, okay, yeah, oh, yeah, this is different. Yeah, sure you're right. This is definitely a new normal. Shit ain't what it used to be. It definitely ain't what it used to be.
Definitely not what it used to be. That's a fact.
I mean, excuse me. It has been like this at one point in time, but the life I've known, no, this shit is not the same, man. Not at all. I don't care what you say. I don't care what place said you ain't gotta wear a mask. This shit is not the same, bro.
This is how messed up. This is how messed up it is. This just came out here. This is how messed up it is. A group of senior hockey players thought they'd done everything right, getting vaccinated, wearing masks, following health protocols. COVID-19 swept through their ranks, killing one of them. They wanted answers from the local public health unit. What went wrong? Rec hockey players want answers after COVID-19 outbreak in a hockey league that everybody's vaccinated in. How's their outbreak if everybody has the thing?
Facts. And on that note, can we talk about something? Can we talk about the point guard from so-called North Jersey?
Oh yeah.
Point guard, you know what I mean, from the Chicago region.
Yeah.
Quote unquote, talking that talk. You know what I mean? Talking about indigenous exemptions, like the brother Kyrie Irving. Excuse me. There's a lot to be learned from his situation. As far as what it comes to in business and private operations during these days and times. Because, I mean, a lot of people already know, but it's just it's so telling, right? They were saying that, well, he can't play or practice or be a part of the Nets organization unless he's vaccinated and he stood on his square, right? And then they say, well, he could practice with the Brooklyn Nets, quote unquote. He could practice with the Brooklyn Nets, but he can't play at the arena. But the reason he could practice is because it was a private situation that everybody could or could not agree to, right? So what it showed is that on the private side, it has to be respected. But these organizations, multi-million, billion organizations, have certain interest in, seeing people get vaccinated and making that statement. So they say, well, we don't care what the state or New York City says. If you can't be a full participant, we don't want you practicing. And mind you, you know what I mean? Like, respect to the Nets. They used to be in New Jersey. They used to be New Jersey Nets. But, they was my squad too. People would look at me like I'm crazy. Like, you're not a Sixers fan? No. Nets fan. You're not a Knicks fan? No. Nets fan. But it's just funny to see that full cycle, and I just feel like, the position that he took, it exposed some things as far as the fact that, look, on a private side, they cannot enforce this vaccine mandate, bro. So what I'm saying is, on a national and international level, knowing that we're Moors, knowing that we have original indigenous, knowing that the word American applies to us specifically, you know what I'm saying? Like, there is definitely cultural exemptions, and there's cultural reasons that people would take it, but on a private side, these are the main things that govern national and international law. So, internationally, nationally, like they can't really force nobody to take it. But if it comes to like public venues, then they feel as though they have a say so. So if it's public and the rules of society is supposed to be, manifested and dictated by quote unquote we the people, who really has the right to say what's what?
Mm-hmm.
But I digress more. I'm gonna leave that there. I just feel like this is some special times as far as people making points and making stands. I hope everything turns out best for everybody, but these are some crazy times, bro. And a lot of people are making their statements even without having to say a word, bro. And that's the time that we kind of.
Right, and exact more.
Indeed, bro.
Straight.
Right. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm gonna just put this out there though. The number change for the call-in number it's on the screen, but for those who are listening via YouTube right now on Canaanland Moorish YouTube page, if you do want to call in and add on, the guest call-in number is 563-999-3403. That's 563-999-3403. We'll post it in the chat. If nobody calls in, if anybody calls in after 11, you won't be able to get in. So it's the last half an hour. If anybody want to add on, speak their piece, ask a question, whatever it may be, you can do that by calling in right now on 563-999-3403. And I'm going to leave that there. But, yeah, more so, we in those days and times where all of that is being pushed to the forefront and, with the Hallows Eve going. And I know that within the 101s of the MSTFA or the 101 questionnaire precisely that Noble Ali left, he spoke about angels and demons and these energies being manifested in human form, and being meant to carry messages to the four corners of the earth. And it just felt like in these days and times, there's been a broad message to all four corners of the earth through this concept of a so-called pandemic. Is what they call it. But I just think it's the shift in society into the future, or what they call mostly every century, a turn of the century. And things might not be the same for a while. Some people would say that it's what it used to be. I don't feel like that, bro. Mm-hmm. Like I just feel like we're in times now where we gotta be in tune with self and in tune with ancestors, and we'll be in definitely in tune with the great God of the universe, above everything else, and all is well. We'll be alright, no matter what it look like. We're gonna come out okay. Right. So I don't want to drag it out. Yeah, if you want to add anything on, if you want to cut this short for the night, etc.
Oh yeah, one more thing to put out there. One more thing to put out. From October 19th, 2021, Billerica House of Corrections, Pod C, Cell 1-08. This is the letter from Brother Jamal. It brings me great pleasure to have received your literature today. I finished Hold Me Up in an hour. I rejected my recreational time to sit on the bed to read. Thanks cannot be said enough. Words cannot express what I felt when I received your books. As professed, although books something by the mysteries of the silent brotherhood of the East, that the greatest heights are achieved by those who reach the greatest depths. I tried to remember this maxim while enduring this some 109 days in jail, where many are utterly consumed by their lower self. I can see how this can be seen as a great depth, having been tested as civiliter mortus. I at times feel dead. That by no means has any effect on me being a proud Moorish American. I'd be a fool to think a brief circumstance, opinion, or anything else can change my ancient Moabite, Canaanite, Hittite, Ammonite blood, Amorite blood. Though at constant odds with my and others' lower self in here, my point is, feeling your loving spirit of brotherhood not only has brought aid, or not only has brought and is bringing tears of joy, it has contributed to strengthening my higher self in the face of severe opposition. Regardless of Allah's enemies, we Moors, which I can say with absolute certainty, have witnessed it myself through the actions of Luca L., have been and continue to nationalize our brothers. We have been to the highway, now we are on the hedges with the most noble, illustrious, and eminent Prophet's teachings. Honors to Prophet Noble Drew Ali, El Haj Sharif Abdul Ali, and you Kudro Ado El. I hope it pleases you and other Moors who may read these words that I have with the astute help, aid in the efforts of Luca L. Over 12 civic and spiritual lessons for denationalized Moors in here. We have handed out several of Drew Ali's Qurans and the mysteries of the silent brotherhood to Moors denationalized in here, 2 of which, to my knowledge, have since desired to proclaim their nationalities on paper and have already chosen Moorish appellations and titles for themselves. Those Moors have also been released from jail. Luca and I's efforts were so impactful that cases were getting dismissed or otherwise making significant better progress. I had Moors at my cell door multiple times a day asking questions about the science. Asians, quote-unquote blacks, quote-unquote Hispanics were all being brought into the Moorish fold, most of which, due to Luca L's ability to speak multiple languages, are arriving to the unit several days before me. He was and is absolutely waking many Moors up, so much so that in August, the agents of the jail put us both in the hole for several days and split us up. But what they didn't do was slow us down. Things in motion stay in motion. At this present time, I am cultivating my mind with the workings of neurons. From memory, I can draw one of the basic structures of the necron. This, can't read that because of the legibility. Since man is mind, Having been introduced to the high science, I can do little but thank my Creator Allah and Mother Felicia for giving me this gift called life. To me, this knowledge of neurons and even being able to draw the basic compounds is beautiful, a great gift. Allah bestows wisdom, intellect, and understanding on whom she wills. I am grateful to even comprehend, and I do know about the working of neurons in our brains, soul and spirit, which activates its function. Life is truly a gift. Although not our intent, July 3rd, 2021 proves that Drew Ali is and was right. To my knowledge, we are the only Moors who have been to the highways with Ali's teachings literally. We also proved that even armed, we are not anti-police, anti-government, black identity extremists, nor the like. I'd like to believe that we represented the Moorish nation in the most favorable light, considering the circumstances forced onto us by the colonial law, color of office, color of authority, and overall hostile aggression and treaty violations of Massachusetts police. So much can be learned from this event, which was clearly governed by the laws of Allah, which is the only reason we were not murdered. Be it from a spiritual perspective, military, or otherwise, gives international perspective. We Moors won spiritually. Quran of Muhammad 8, Surah 8, 9 to 19, and Circle 7 Quran 41, 46, 25 to 33. I miss my wife and daughter dearly. I beg through you and to all Moors that if anything worse were to happen to me, please protect my daughter's innocence. She is pure, always happy, and very intelligent. Please ensure that she will know without doubt or contradiction that she is Moorish American and her prophet is Noble Drew Ali. Love a mentally free Moor under extreme duress and mental spiritual anguish, having been subject to genocide by being forcibly removed from my loved ones, denationalized, and subject to inhumane conditions. I am Jamal Talib Abdullah Bey, proud Moorish American, 4:32 p.m., Moroccan flag, fez, crescent and star, and the Hex Alpha, Islam. So Pete, just wanted to put that out there for all the Moors to know that the Moors are still standing, they're still fighting, and regardless of what, regardless of the denationalization and the criminal activity going on, that they haven't moved from their position. You know, they haven't yielded from their position, you know, which again, going back to what we were talking about earlier with the ancestors and connecting with the ancestors, you know, put out some energy for these Moors and all Moors worldwide who are under some type of colonial operation that has them, you know, in a position that, you know, majority of us aren't dealing with. So we want to give honors to the Moors who have been supporting, the Moors who have been sending their positive energy and listening to the little voice to know what they can do to assist these Moors in adversity. And we want to also acknowledge the Moors who are in these predicaments for staying true to the cause and staying firm in their faith of Islamism. And I yield.
everybody can take something from. You know, it's a sad situation, but I see them trying to look at it the best way possible.
Yeah.
You know, there's so much to be said. That's a whole nother show. But I think that was dope. You know what I mean? Nah, because it's like, you know, it's just a lot, man.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
It was.
No doubt.
Yeah.
It's still a lot. It's still a lot.
Yeah, you know, yeah. It's interesting, man. You know, so at this point in time, just to be clear, there is some Moors who was in that situation that did come home.
Yeah, there was, I think two or three. One of them was the minor, and then two others, I think. And then everybody else is still up in there.
Okay. So the two others, was those the two others that cooperated, like, and ran into the woods? Like, was those guys?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not 100%, but I think so.
Indeed. Yeah, I don't know. It's just something. I mean, that whole situation. I trust if, like I said before, I spoke on it before. I don't, you know, all I can say is, man, you know, may Allah protect the truth, and that's all I can say, man. Like, but that's heartfelt because I don't know, man.
Yeah.
That one is tough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, for everybody who was truly standing on their principles and, you know, trusted and knew in their Constitution, man, you know, that's, man, yeah. So I'm going to leave that there, bro. I don't believe
Islam.
we have any more callers on the I
Yeah.
know we're doing this on own schedule, so I know everybody may not have been able to tune in as usual, and the number changed as well. I don't want to drag this out, but I do want to say peace to all Moors. I do want to say that I trust, you know, the divine law, the written law, as far as the Constitution goes. You know, if what we know to be true is true, as I know it to be, or trust that it is, you know, may that prevail, natural law, and may all of our people be protected, man. Again, you know, we closing out on the postponed schedule, Sons of Allah, for October. But again, Halloween or Hallows Eve is a few days away. And remember, it's all about the true spirits and the elements. And listen to your ancestors sometimes, opposed to trying to prove everything to them.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe, just maybe, you know what I'm saying? You might learn a little something if you learn to stop fronting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whole 50 or like, that's all I can say. You might learn a little something if you learn to stop fronting. And that's what your ancestors might be able to teach you more than you think you could teach them, and guide us to the right place. And if you trust in the spirits in the ancestral realm and the proximity that we're in and the portals that are opening for us to be tapped in, make sure you're willing to receive as much as you're willing to get, right? Like, so you might be willing to give out candy to trick-or-treaters at your door, even though all of that has changed, but whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just make sure you're ready to receive those messages from your spiritual ancestors, just like you're ready to give out candy to strangers. And, you know, things might work
Thank
I
you,
know we
Mo.
ended it a little early tonight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I just want to say big thanks to you. We'll be back next month, third Thursday, the Thursday before Thanksgiving, you know, to go back in. And in the meantime,
the good Thursdays as usual.
No doubt. Yeah, good Thursday. Yo, we got some stuff to discuss.
Straight.
Definitely. Oh, and I'm gonna say this too, before we go, I just want to keep this in context because again, we're here on Halloween, and people dress up and put on makeup to be images that they want to mock. They're not that, but they dress up for a day as that. I just want to say, in the historical context, right, what people call, like, you know, Europeans, right? All right, so we know that the so-called white people are actually Europeans, right? But they have a tradition that goes back to England, where the pale-skinned nations of Europe paint their faces, right, to dress up in what some of our people modernly call blackface. But what they call blackface, the actual term for it is called Moor mud. Go ahead and look up Moor mud. You know what I mean? Like when we're talking about costumes, dressing up in Halloween. And a lot of people have been disappointed with certain Europeans for quote unquote blackface. But what they call blackface, the term for it is actually called Moor mud. MOOR space MUD. Moor mud. Right? That's what they put on their face and pretend to be you. And for the record, I haven't to this very day seen any child or any adult like dress up as something they didn't in some way have admiration for on Halloween.
Yeah.
Whether that be a child wanting to Superman for Halloween, or Freddy Krueger, or Jason, or you know what I mean, Pikachu, whatever it is. Cujo. I said earlier, Moors is more. You know what I mean? I'm gonna do my Popeye the Sailor Moore thing. I only say that because you put up the cartoon. I'm not dressing up as stuff, but you know what I mean? Popeye the Sailor Moore. Moors are mooring. You know what I mean?
Straight.
And yeah, you know what I mean. You put that out there a while ago. That image of Popeye having a fez on his head.
Yeah.
You know, but what I'm saying is I never seen anybody dress up to be something that they did not have an admiration for. You know, so that being said, when these Europeans dress up and put the Moor mud on their face, and certain people call it blackface, just remember, like, before we get offended, the psychology is they're dressing up as some people that they actually adore.
Mm-hmm.
It's a persona they actually adore. It's not because they hate you. No, they can never be you. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But just know that that's the psychological motivation. You know what I mean? Like they're definitely not dressing up as something they deem inferior.
Mm-hmm.
But is it a mockery? I can agree with that. Yeah, it's a mockery. But their psychology is they're dressing up as a hero, a superhero, or a superhero. So you know what I mean? Like that's how they looking at it. That being said, fam,
Islam.
you know, I'm gonna leave that there. Islam, and I appreciate everybody for listening. And I'll close us out with something off of the Moabite Sons, which is available. Cujo, I know you could accurately plug the source from where they could get the latest Moorish compilation of Moabite Sons. Oh gosh, hold on. Before you do that,
I just need to say, bro, I appreciate that song, Take Notice. You said take notice. Pardon me if I misquote this, but your favorite rapper got a dress on and wear press-ons. I'm not calling nobody out. But you know what I'm talking about. Crazy times, bro. But
Crazy times.
Man, where can they get the Moabite
Moabite Sons. You can hit up Khalifa Media, khalifamedia.com for the new Moabite Sons with myself and brother Exodus Bay. And also for the new book, Hold Me Up, khalifamedia.com. And as well, we always got to give honors to mother because, you know, sons of Allah ain't nothing without mother. So honors to the mothers, MHHS, for allowing us to have the platform to be able to do our sons thing, even though mom's close. And honors to you, Ms., once again, for being one of the sons of one of the greatest mothers that we know. And we give supreme honors to rvbaypublications.com for setting us right a long time ago and sticking true to the program. And and honors to Mother Raz with the classes going on. I missed last night, but they've been very helpful. And if you need to get in tune with that, again, rvbaypublications.com and get yourself in line. Peace and love to all the Moors, honors to all the mothers worldwide, honors to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Islam.
Islam. And yo, that's so dope you said that, but I just want to make sure I put this out there for those listening. Yes, the classes have been great that my mother has started recently. And all of those who've already been participating, next week is going to be the open floor. She says every fourth class is going to be open for us to participate. So shout out to everybody who already signed up or who will sign up this week. But we're going to have a great session this upcoming week, next Wednesday. So, man, I look forward to it, bro. I know it's sometimes like you missed it last night, but you'll be able to catch up.
Oh yeah.
And bro, next week is gonna be lit, bro. I can't wait. You know what I mean? Like I'm looking so forward.
Yeah.
So, shout out to my mother, Raz Mariah. We're gonna celebrate again tomorrow. I love my people, man. I love my family. I love everybody that's tuned in and on those 5 principles. You know what I mean? Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. Sorry, the boat has left the dock, and now Moors are mooring, man. And we're about to moor off of this for tonight and say peace and love to you all. And hopefully, y'all stay tuned to rvbaypublications.com. The updated date for the class will be posted within the next 24 hours. But we will be on next Wednesday. Also, of course, Tuesday, MHHS Blog Talk Radio, right back on this same Blog Talk channel. You know, there will be Tuesday Principles of Nationality and Action, and we are in the right season, so we'll have a lot more updates coming very, very soon. That being said, peace, y'all. We out.
Peace.
Indeed.
That African king shit. That African king shit. That African king shit. Yo, that African king shit. Yo, that African king shit. Respect the queen and the royal blood. We are not kings. We are not queens. We are not whack rappers. We see the G's. We are all things. We are too much. When we drop truth, they say too rough. Slow down
Arizona Dutch, no hero, my master or pastor, minister divine. Grant you some time if more deep with their autograph on the line. Sending out wrist and seal with the thumb. See us in feathers and actually from. Tell them Morocco, I say Maghreb to Arabic speakers, they know what I said. They won't call me king, won't call me sire, won't call me friar, won't call me liar, won't call me lawyer or esquire. Kings come from kingdoms, not empires.
That African king shit, yo. Talking that African king shit, yo. Talking that African king shit. Respect the queen and the royal bloodshot, yo. That African king shit, yo. Talking that African king shit, yo. Talking that African king shit. Respect the queen and the royal bloodshot. To the ancient move, rock, I'm rock. We don't stop without a move. We don't stop. Eddie Murphy, I joke that. On the catch when you see the road dog, coming to what I've been here, land of the west. 5 points on this, coming to get emperor with a family crest, say less. Fighting the contract, outlaw, but you in combat, so far gone. And I'm a Moor on my lawn. If I was black, man, it'd probably be gone. Singing that same old song, had a whole home with the strong. War with wisdom, teach your kingdom, original danger, move across the best. I make some east to the west, east to the west. That African king shit, yo. Talking that African king shit, yo. Talking that African king shit. Respect the queen and the royal bloodshot, yo. That African king shit, yo. Talking that African king shit, yo. Talking that African king shit. Respect the queen and the royal bloodshot. King shit. Respect the queen and the royal bloodshot, yo. That African king shit, yo. Talking that African king shit, yo. Talking that African king shit. Respect the queen and the royal bloodshot, yo. That African king shit, yo. Talking that African king shit, yo. Talking that African king shit. Respect the queen and the royal bloodshot. King shit. Respect the queen and the royal bloodshot. Rapka! Good son. Read off the pay every day. Uplift the sea cause we all pay. We enforce the law and we obey. Our fathers from before until today. Reading my Quran and my Torah. Universal laws in Moorish. Read 4 chapters, receive it 4 ways. Great divine love rules on first. Before I circle blocks, man, I circle 7 first. You bust the image, but your rhymes hurt. Verse 13, disrespecting earth. But it's all in God's plan. Today's mathematics don't judge a man. Unity of life, embodiment of truth. I'm responsible for every deed because I see the proof. No, but true. Hey, you have to try it out for you. Cause nationality is not a color I can use. There is truth. Standing on my square, even without shoes. On the highest authority, spirit of blue. Marcus Coffee, whirlwind times 2. The world's in the wind when the trumpet blew.
Stand up, go into your bathroom. You got a big Florida feeling, cut the light on and take a good hard look at yourself. You are the Moorish government, you know, and it took me a long time to get to understand that concept. I don't know ambassador. If I can govern myself, if I can govern my household, that's what I should be doing. Why should I walk out of my door and leave everything that I know about myself in the house to go out and adopt something that I have no knowledge of?
sacred knowledge, Olmecan features, secrets of the afterlife, manifest the present day. Dirty mortal scoundrels lose their heads in a pleasant way. Deceit and deception, negative past thoughts, keeps awareness on point. Spirit messages never off. Inner realization, encounter the higher self, explain existence, explain my consistence. Without a focus, never know so fast, most resistant. Divinity, my twin flame, side chick and mistress. Metaphysics, Kabbalistic, Almaroc mystic, patriarch, statistic. Make my thoughts sadistic, so indigenous. Call me Americanistic, invoking the ancestor, Saracen cryptic. Suns on rotation, flows ecliptic, shatter all illusions. Reveal the realistic, sitting in the dark, holding the light marvelous. Recognize the artifice, skin so carbonous, hair so antenna. I feel them from Vienna, myriad of virtues, lessons in reptilian henna. Enlightenment seekers won't find it in mainstream. Focus as a laser, stay balanced like a beam. Not even a gymnast. Whenever I flip this, as above, so below, get out where within this. Don't think I'm a slave cause I speak in English. Drew, I need the water, watch your flame get extinguished. Living in your higher, lower self is relinquished. Reputation of master teachers, call it distinguished. Operation Rapid Inquisition. Still here. Operation Rapid Inquisition. All the goddesses. Iron shit is marvelous, yo. The deaf will hear and the blind will see. The hidden message in the words of Drew Ali. Indirectly, Drew Ali, one of the names of the prophets internationally. Drew said Moors, proclaiming nationality, cause they're not Ethiopian or NBC. We founded the Melody in 28 saying that they will cross the base. So I needed to clear up the mess for most of it, so they can big up their chest to prove what they know and what they can do. Creating the wheel that was created by Drew. When you know the truth, many debate, but few humble themselves and look like the jungle itself. Just do me, keeping my goal while they trade in their jewelry. Costa Rican nature base school me. You fool me? Any of these 30 more people they could mute me truly. Who's the real Drew? Me and we. And seeing more their religion is my mental degree. And where everybody's supposed to be. If not, I guess that's not where you're supposed to be. Hopefully, Drew, I will be seen openly and realize NBC is something you can be. That's what it is. I will see the hidden message in the words of Drew Ali. The devil in the hand, I will see the hidden message in the words of Drew Ali. The devil in the hand, I will see the hidden message in the words of Drew Ali. The devil in the hand, I will see the hidden message in the words of Drew Ali. These unconscious ones love the semblance of identity and having no remembrance. The most factual resemblance of the ancestral land inheritance. Love being the children, not the parents. To do any activity asking for clearance. Their minds like crystal, nothing but clearance. Everyone can progress in their land, their heirs can. It's their status. Stop making races. Who bleed just like you? If you shag the faces, you walk through there with administration, and they use that as an emblem on the apron. And can't be free if it's not Moorish nations. Black or more Europeans are not Caucasians. Coming to the new world to civilize pagans. We go to harvest from marks on hills, we send in an agent. The death on the air, I will see the hidden message in the words of Drew Ali. The death on the air, I will see the hidden message in the words of Drew Ali. The death on the air, I will see the hidden message in the words of Drew Ali. The death on the air, I will see the hidden message in the words of Drew Ali.
To transcend and ascend in this is the journey. It's like the more traveling. World to world, the sound within. They gotta touch you, a create style. Pass all the sort of truths and the lies they tell. To keep y'all from drinking at the well. Divine love, that's the fountain of youth. Sun secret, it's the alchemist secret. Restoring true unity, resurrecting our community. So every day you make the fight. So it's hard, it's less God. In every demonstration, I'm penetrating. tone, reaches to the tone, latest and original MC is relevant, and the style is intelligent, but I keep it interesting. Drop it to math in the cipher, in the law is the center. To study yourself and be renewed. That's elevation, restoration, to contemplation and meditation. Now the soul's navigating, manifesting all creation. The roomie of this life, utilizing the light on the path. My body is an astro lab. I take the right action, and my compound is the passion for internal alchemy.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.